Now, here are just some elite performance habits. We're going to go through these quickly. For analysts, a big part of our audience is hedge funds. So analysts for hedge funds. So we'll just take a look at one of these. So what we do is we go through areas, we do 10 areas, and then we do 10 categories within those areas. So an area, for instance, we highlighted this one, idea generation, is the area. It's important for analysts to come up with ideas. They have to come up with ideas. And then underneath that are these categories. So the categories are artificial intelligence, right? We go through the categories. We have 100 area category combinations for people to choose from when they're setting goals or when they're looking to instill or eradicate habits. And you'll see this, you should have this in your folders. You also see it in the apps. And then we do this for life habits. So I've written a book actually on this, 2 books. I call it the Success Formula. And I've worked on this for a very long time. Really for my whole life I've been thinking about what's the ultimate success formula? How am I going to be elite performance? So number 1 is you want to have a mission. Number 2, we're going to go through each of these. I'm going to go through them quickly here. Mission, you want to have goals, which are just subsets of your mission. Then you want to prioritize your goals. You want to have plans to achieve those goals. And you've got to schedule in the action items from your plans. You've got to execute on the plans on those action items. You've got to have an accountability strategy to make sure you actually execute on the plan. You've got to measure. How do you know if you're making progress on the plan? How do you know if you're making progress at all and what you're doing, what your goal is? Then you've got to persevere. You got to make sure you really go for it. What happens right before success? Boom, there's all kinds of obstacles come into place. And then boom, success. So this is the success formula. It's like a cake. It's the ingredients to a cake. So first step is a mission. So what's a mission? Mission's 2 parts. People just think the mission's about the destination. No, it's more about the journey. What do you become along the way? What are the obstacles that you face and you've overcome? Right? Maybe some great books that you've read or the people that you've met along the way. This is what it's really about. It's really about the journey. You can think about, a great book, for instance. Think about, let's just read the last page. Oh, yeah, I'm there. Well, the exciting part is the journey, the reading the book. Right? That's the exciting part. Living your life. Otherwise, just, great, live my life. Just put me on my deathbed and look back. No, it's living the life. Right? So it's the journey, the mission. And understand that the journey is a really important part of this. Now, of course, you want to be successful. You want to accomplish your mission, whatever it is that you set out to do. Now, there are 3 levels of a mission. The first level is the organizational mission. And any leader of an organization must be sure that the organization understands what the organizational mission is. Usually, somebody does that. There's usually that type of mission. But then it goes downhill from there. Teams usually don't have missions. Right? Unless you've got a leader at an organization that really understands the importance of missions. Teams usually don't have missions. Right? So the teams at a business, that is. A team in a sports franchise, their mission is the championship. And then at the individual level, when we work with individuals, the first step of our process, and we're going to do it here, a little MVP version of it, is a mission. You have a mission statement for your life. A lot of people have mission statements for their business. They don't even have a friggin' mission statement for their own life. Like, why are you here? What is your mission? What are you about? How could you have a mission for your business, but not for your life? Think about this. It's good to get kids thinking about this early on. Why are you here? What are we trying to do here? Okay, so think about those. So, and a coach told me this the other day. He was telling me, it's like, so Rich, what's the real reason why we have goals? Or even missions. Like, what is the end game for this? Like, why do we have goals? Like, a lot of people have goals they want to make money. Right? Is that what it is? Is that really what their goal is? That's not really what their goal is. To have a bunch of paper with dead people on it? It's not really what your goal is. It's what does money give you? That's called the means goal. A means value, right? What does it give you? What does money give you? Different things to different people. You have to figure that out. Different values, different things to different people. Usually it will give you freedom. That's one thing it can give you. I want freedom. So I don't have to listen to my boss. Right? I want to do what I want to do. Right? It's called F-U money. Right? I want to do what I want to do. Freedom. Mission gives you, for me, the ultimate for mission is fulfillment. You accomplish a mission, you're fulfilled. Yes. Accomplish the mission, fulfilled. I set out to do what I was going to do. I'm fulfilled. So that's really the goal of a mission, the end goal of a mission, is that emotion. Really, emotions determine the quality of our lives. Right? If we have great emotions our whole lives, probably had a great life. Right? If you're in a horrible mood your whole life, you didn't have a great life. So think about missions and goals in those terms, right? It's about the emotion. So when people start thinking about the importance of a mission, they get all freaked out. It's like, mission for my life? Now Rich is saying this is really important. Boy, I better have one. And it is important. You should be freaked out by it. But what happened to him, this big, giant project that has this big challenge, and it's like, oh my God, where do I start, right? What do? You break it down. You chunk it down into categories. So that's what we do. We have actually a 10-step process. I'm just going to go through a few here. So the first is think about roles. People think about values when they think about missions. But I say start with roles. What are the roles you're in? You might be a dad. You might be a brother. You might be leader of an organization. You might be a trader. You might be a portfolio manager. You might be a risk manager. Think about the roles first. Each of these roles has different values. Because you do ultimately want to get to the values. That's what it's all about. What do you value? Literally, what's valuable to you? When you think about roles, then you can start, what do I value as a dad? Oh, yeah. Now you start thinking about, love my children, right? I want them to learn, right? You start thinking about, what do you value? As a teacher, what do you value? You value knowledge, education. So you think about roles first, then values. And what's the principle that goes along with that? What goes along with the principle for that value? Right? It might be freedom, and I want to make a lot of money so that I can be free and do what I want to do. And then you get down to the code of conduct. What are you going to do in the field? I'm going to work really hard to make a lot of money. I'm going to impress my boss, right? Whatever it is. And then you just come up with a mission statement from there. We'll take a look at that in a second, but I love this picture, and I love Alice in Wonderland. Just this little piece of it, actually. Does anybody know that the part with the Cheshire Cat? Right, where Alice wanders upon the Cheshire Cat, and she's like, hey, he's like, and the Cheshire Cat is like, hey, what do you want, little girl? She says, hey, I want to know, which way should I go? Like, which way should I go? And he says, oh, well, it depends on where you're trying to get to. Oh, right, where's your mission, right? And she's like, oh, I don't know, anywhere will do. And he's like, oh, well then, anyway, I'll go, just go wherever you want, and he will do. No, so he's just going to wander aimlessly. You want to figure out where you're trying to go, because if you don't know where you're going, you might end up someplace else, right? Yogi Berra. So here's how to create a mission statement. Here's what we're talking about. So here's something for a portfolio manager and analyst. You come up with your values. So an analyst might have meticulousness is a really important value for, you probably better get it right. You're going to present it to your portfolio manager, your boss, right? So that requires, the principle is, I've got to do due diligence, right? That's my principle. Make sure it's right. And then the code of conduct is conducting rigorous investment analysis. That's what I'm going to do. There's another one for a health coach. What does a health coach do? Teaches, right? Wants to educate. Principal is educating their clients. And then code of conduct, I'm going to teach for understanding and growth to my clients. Now goals, what are goals? Goals are really just subsets of a mission. And again, it's the same thing, it's to fulfill a purpose. It's the fulfillment. It's the emotion they're going to get. Want to make a lot of money? What are you going to get from that? Freedom. For some people, it might not just be free, might not be freedom. It might be you want to help people. You want to contribute, compassion. Now I'm able to help a lot of people. So a lot of people know what these smarter goals are, right? SMART goals. We're going to go into smarter goals. So first step of a smarter goal is specific, right? You want to make it as specific as possible. Christina told me a good story yesterday on this. She's going to tell it later. You want to make sure it's measurable. You got to make it measurable. You want it to be so that if somebody sees it, like your coach, somebody sees your goal, they know exactly what it is you're trying to achieve. Not like, yeah, I'm trying to lose weight, or yeah, I want to run. How far? Right? How far and how far and how fast? Right? You want to get really specific. You want to make sure it's achievable. Like, no, I'm going to climb Mount Everest tomorrow. Make sure it's achievable. But importantly, make sure it's a stretch. Make sure it's a challenge. You don't have these wimpy goals. Make sure it's a challenge. What good is that? It's not a real challenge. I was listening to this podcast today where he was talking about, weirdly he was talking about stretching. It's like, can you stretch too much? That's what the podcast was, right? Can you stretch too much? Right? Now you want to be stretching. You want to get out of your comfort zone. That's where the true growth comes from, is getting out of your comfort zone. You want to stretch. And really, people have heard of the flow state. The only way to get into the flow state is to go above what you're capable of doing. Just a little bit above what you're capable of doing. So how fun is it for you to play somebody, I don't know, for the tennis fans out there, how fun is it to play somebody you beat every time? You crush your little brother every time. That's no fun, right? You want to beat somebody that's better than you, right? That you might win 1 out of 10 times. Then what happens when you beat that person? Yes, and you know you're growing. You got to really work hard to do that. Pick something that's challenging. That's how you're really going to grow. You want it to be relevant, which means it should be aligned with your mission. Make sure whatever you're doing is going to align with your mission, with your values. It's got to be relevant. Don't pick these goals that have nothing to do with your mission. Stay on top, stay on target with your mission. Especially, it's really important for your life and business. People have all these goals like, hey, how's that going to help us with our mission? It's not. Don't do it. Make sure it's relevant to the mission. You want to make it time-bound. You want to have a start line and a deadline. We'll talk a lot about that in the workshop portion. You want to have it written. Right, what happens when people say, oh, where's your New Year's resolution? Where are your goals? You have goals? It's like, yeah, I got them. Oh, where are they? It's like, where do they do? What do they do? What do they point to? Yeah, their heads. The goals is plan. You know that person's not getting them done. You're not written down. You didn't write your goals down. You don't care enough about them. That person you'll see next New Year's Eve, talk to them about their same resolutions. Studies show only 8% of people get their resolutions done. 92% talk about them again for the next 30 years at New Year's until they give up. So make sure they're written. Review them. Keep them in your face. You're going to come away. For those of you who are determined here, some of you, a lot of you won't do it because you're not determined enough. You don't have the grit, right, to do it, to get it done. I saw a couple of people like talking to me. I'm challenged. Anything, right? I'm going to get it done, right? You can come up, if you work hard on it, you listen to Christina when you're going through this, you can come up with a master plan at the end of this with your top 10 goals and top 2 prioritized actions for each goal. You get that done, and you can print it out, and keep it in your face, keep looking at it every day. You get that done, I guarantee, if you've done this exercise right. These are your top goals. You're telling us these are your top goals this year. I'll bet people have been working on them for years. Top goals, I'm going to get them. This is the year I'm going to write that book. This is the year I'm going to get that job. This is the year I'm going to make $1 million. Whatever it is. This is my goal. These are like top 2 action items. You get those 20 action items done, I guarantee you'll have an amazing year. Participation. If other people are involved in the goal, stakeholders, get them involved, especially for business goals, other people involved, or even yourself. Get your coach involved. Have them take a look at it. Get feedback on it. Then accountability. We talked about accountability strategy. You've got to have an accountability strategy. Again, my favorite accountability strategy is coaching. Again, that's why I went to this. My coaches hold me accountable to my goals, especially the ones that don't have deadlines. A little foreshadowing, we're going to talk about that a little bit later. And then purpose. You want to have a strong purpose for your goals. And Christina's going to talk about this more, so I'm just going to touch on it. A strong purpose is a lot of pain. Associate pain with not achieving the goal. This is the strong why that people talk about. If you have a goal, you want to get to the gym, right? It's April. It's like, I better get to the gym, right? It's April. What happens in May? At least here in this part of the area. What happens in May? What happens in Memorial Day, right? Summertime, right? People start going to the beach. Better get into the gym, right? Start thinking about the pain if you haven't. Right? What's the pain? And then what's the pleasure? What's the reward? Think about the rewards. Oh, great. I'm fit. I'm going to the beach. Right? I'm working out. I have a lot of energy. Start thinking about, for any goal that you have, pain and pleasure. That will get you up in the morning. You wake up in the morning. It's like, you know what? I'm not going to go to the gym. You start thinking about the pain. It's like, Memorial Day. Get your ass out of bed. Go to the gym. Right? So think about any goal. Pain, pleasure. That's what we were talking about, the accountability strategy before. Public humiliation. That book will be written. I don't want to be showing up at that event with you guys like, you're full of it, Rich. You say, come to the book. We're not coming to your seminars. You pay us to come. The book will be there. Prioritization. So this prioritization this is time management. What are you going to do with your time? You got 168 hours in your week. Where are you going to spend them? Only got 168. 56 of them are taken by sleep. Where are you going to spend the rest of that time? This is deciding what's most important to you. And there's a process to do that. You want to define your criteria. You want to weigh the criteria. What's most important to me? What's most important for me to get done? So for me, one of my top habit is sleep. I prioritize that. I have my habit tracker. I actually give myself 3. So I look at it every day, see how much sleep I get. What time did I go to bed? What time did I wake up? How much sleep I got? The quality of my sleep. I've got an Oura ring. You want to make sure you're prioritizing your life. This is procrastination. Procrastination is putting those things that are less important ahead of those things that are more important. That's stupid. Why would anybody do that? It's really stupid. Now, there is a reason why. I gave the answer before, because we are programmed for immediate gratification instead of long-term fulfillment, so we'll do it all the time. Right? We'll procrastinate on things. There's also another definition for procrastination. It's screwing your life up for no apparent reason. That's the other definition of procrastination. So there are ways to get around. You've got to figure that out. We do a whole seminar on procrastination. I'll talk a little bit more about it later. The idea is you want to get the highest return on your time, and that return is defined as the impact. What impact can I make in the least amount of time? How can I get a really quick workout in if I need to in a short period of time? Plans. We talked a little bit about this before. The bottom line with plans is if you fail to plan, you plan to... Now, this is on video, so I do want... It sounds like there are only 3 people here, so we're going to try it again. So if you fail to plan, you plan to... Fail. One more time. If you fail to plan, you plan to... Fail. All right, yeah, there's a few people here. All right. It's the bottom line. Whenever we have a goal at Arootah, what happens? The goal? Jack? What happens when we have a goal?
Make a plan.
Make a plan. We make a plan. That's ingrained in him. And the young man, my chief of staff, also my cousin. We plan, right? You plan. This has been ingrained in me so deep. My coach, like, we go, plan. I was like, no, I'm just going to do it. No, plan. Write the plan out. It's got to be written, too. Same thing. People's like, yeah, I've got a goal, written goals. Like, you got a plan, you got a plan. Like, where is it? No, it's got to be written. And this is so important that this is another tool that we developed. I spent 2 decades developing this tool. And hundreds of thousands of dollars developing this tool. No BS. Right, this is so important. Plans are so important. It increases the probability of success by astronomically. Helps you be proactive. There's a whole creativity part of it. So this is a 10-step process for the plans. You want to restate your goals. That's the objective. You want a purpose that we talked about before. What are the consequences if I don't do it? What are the risks? Just to remind you, this is still part of the goal piece of it. Then you have measure. How are we doing with the plan? Are we getting further away from what we're doing? I want to lose 30 pounds? I gained 10? My plan sucks. I got to get a better plan. You got to be measuring it. Right? And then measuring, are you actually executing on the plan? Are you actually doing the plan? Not going to just happen. So we're 50% of the way done with the plan. You want to make sure you're communicating with all the stakeholders. Now, categorization is a big part of a plan. If you have a big plan and just break down a whole bunch of action items, is that a plan? No, that's a to-do list. That sucks. You will not make progress with a to-do list. If you got a real plan, a mature plan, it has to have categories. Also helps you get out of overwhelm. It's an organized way to do it. Category 1, right? I want to lose weight. Category 1. Number 1, nutrition. Number 2, exercise. Number 3, blah, 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 right? And under each one of those, you have action items for each one of those. Right? Hire a health coach, blah, 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 blah. Nutrition, hire a nutritionist. Right? So that's a real plan. Categorization is really important. Then what everybody thinks of as a plan, then the action items. These action items must be prioritized. Think about all these action items. Who can you delegate them to? Always delegate. That's a whole seminar in and of itself. If you can delegate some of the action items, delegate them so you can work on more important things. Anything you delegate. So we think about that while you're doing the plan. Schedule in the action items, which is another one of the steps we'll talk about, and then execution, which is the hardest part of it. Here it is, scheduling. It's not real unless you schedule it in. So when you have a plan, you'll have action items, you schedule them in. Get them on your schedule. As long as people follow their schedules. But if it's not scheduled in, it's not real. Great coach once told me that. And I think it's actually the quote here too. I'm wondering if that's where he got it from. He's like, Rich, it's not real. Unless it's scheduled in. Or maybe she got it from him. People don't think about scheduling in their habits. Why not? It's like, yeah, it's a habit. I don't need to schedule it in. I'm going to run. I'm going to do this. Like, yeah, schedule it in. How's it going to happen unless it's on your schedule? Schedule it in. What do you want to get done? You want to get a habit done? Put it on your schedule. Then it'll get done. Now, you got to be a little bit careful with this also. Because I'm putting some things in. I wanted to write a chapter in a book that I had promised to some people, and I was procrastinating on it. It's like, and I called my coach. It's like, I can't seem to write this chapter. I can't do it. It's like, can you meet with me? And I have it. She's like, do you have it scheduled in? You're following your own? It's like, yeah, I got it scheduled in. But I go, and instead of writing it, I answer emails. She's like, all right. So it's like, can you do me a favor? Can you just come to this meeting? You don't even have to say anything. You just sit there and just be there at this meeting. And she's like, oh, Rich. She's like, no, she's like, you. And she has like really powerful clients. She's like, a lot of my really powerful clients ask me to do this. Like, oh, this is something must be called. He's like, I have a name for it. And she's like, I thought it would be this real technical term. I was like, really, what's it called? I'm going to use that in my seminar. She's like, it's called babysitting. I was like, oh. I was like, I get it, wise ass. Yeah, all right. Can you babysit me then next Saturday, 8 o'clock, and help me write a chapter on my book? And it worked. She babysat. It cost me a lot of money for an hour. She can do whatever she wants. She's just there, and I'm writing the chapter. Okay, so we have a whole process at Arootah where we schedule things in and track what we're doing. So that's scheduling. Execution now. Most people do not write down their goals, right? You know, your friends, they all write down their goals. Probably most of them don't. How many people write down some of them do. They've written down my goals. They're all proud of them, so I've written down my goals. But then do they have a plan? Maybe in their head, right? How many have written plans for their personal goals, especially? How many people have written plans for their personal goals? Very few. By the end of the session, you will have those. Some of you, those with grit. Then the hard part comes, execution, right? That's hard. Execution. We can take you as far as the writing down the goals and the plans, but then what happens? Right? Friday comes along, weekend's coming along, won't do it today, right? What happens? Execution comes, the hard part, because people get what? They get caught up. They get caught up with life, all kinds of distractions. This day and age especially, so many distractions. You're getting caught up. You can't get caught up. You want to get it done. So execution is really important. So there's processes for execution, but the most important part of it, well, for business people actually, or for those business people in the crowd, what do you look for management? What's more important? Strategy for a team that has a great product or service, or do you look for some management team that can execute? What's more important? Execution. You have a decent business or service you can't execute on, what good is worth nothing. Even if you got a shitty, at least you're executing on it. You're getting something done. Execution is so important. Now, to help with execution, another reason why I love coaching is helping me to execute on my plans is accountability. Right? Accountability is owning one's actions and outcomes and instilling the same sense of responsibility within the team. Right? You want to be accountable to your goals and to your coach. Coaches can really help you be accountable. So there are 4 levels of accountability I look at. This is such an important topic. When I was starting this firm, my partner, John Griffin, asked me what we're going to do. He said, what are you going to do? I was like, I'm going to create a firm that's going to be centered around coaching, most importantly for accountability. And he's 6'7". He got him. He grabbed me. He's like, Rich, if you can figure out accountability, that's $1 billion company right there. I was like, I'm working on it. He's like, let me invest. Like, I will. So accountability is so important. So it's coaching. So there are 4 types of accountability. There's downwards accountability. That's usually what people think about. How am I going to hold my team accountable, my subordinates accountable? I'm going to hold them accountable, right? And you have all kinds of ways to hold them accountable. We'll talk about that. Then the other type of accountability is sideways accountability. That's your teammates. So think about in a sports team. Right? Somebody's keeps yelling at the referee. It's like, hey, you want to hold me accountable? Like, you keep yelling at the referee, we keep getting penalized. Stop yelling at the referee. Now, you don't really have a lot of leverage on your teammates. You're not the coach, right? So you just have, hey, we want to win the championship. We want to win. So that's a tough one. That's a hard one, to hold your teammates accountable, your colleagues on the same level. Then there's the boss, holding the boss accountable. That's a dangerous one, right? You want to hold the boss accountable. Be careful with that one because you screw that one up, right? So, but it's important. I like my team holds me accountable. I asked them not to do it in front of when we're on the team meetings with everybody in the firm is there. It's like, Rich, you're preaching about all this stuff, but you're not doing it. It's like, I know, you don't have to say it in front of everybody. So you might want to pull the boss aside, do it in the right way. But it's really important to hold your boss accountable. A good boss will appreciate it, especially doing it in the right way. It's like, yeah, you're right. I need to work on that. And then there's usually somebody on your team that's really the greatest challenge to hold accountable. Who's that person on your team? The most challenging person to hold on your team? Yourself, very good. Yeah, yourself. Really hard to hold yourself accountable, right? Because nobody's looking maybe when I'm going to get out, I'm going to do this, right? Cheesecake, late night refrigerator, nobody knows, right? So it's really hard to hold yourself accountable. Now, there's 2 forces for accountability, for personal accountability. Number 1, there's the internal force. That internal force is known as willpower, which is important. Willpower is important. Right? And people talk to me, I've got a ton of willpower. Rick's a real disciplined guy. It's really hard for me. And willpower can run out. It is a limited resource. Then there are external forces that can help you with it. That's coaching, that's technology. Right? You want to use both. You want to use both if you can. So accountability, when you want to hold somebody accountable, including yourself, you want to manage expectations in a positive way. It's like, okay, what are we going to be doing? What do you want to be held accountable for? Somebody has to agree to you, so there has to be commitment for it. How are we going to measure it? How are you going to know if they've gotten it done or not? There has to be some measurement. Right? You're going to get 100 people to the webinar seminar. How are you going to know? You're going to measure it. There has to be rewards and consequences for this accountability. It doesn't work. If there's no rewards, there's no consequences. You get this done, boom, you get rewards. You don't get it done, there's some consequences. Otherwise, what good is accounting? There's nothing for them. This is the purpose again. Strong purpose, strong why. Make sure there are deadlines. By when? When are you going to get it done? There has to be a deadline. That deadline has to have the rewards and consequences as well. Again, get it in writing. It can just be an email. Hey, we said we're going to do this. Just checking. Just want to make sure we're on the same page. Get it in writing. How many times have you talked to somebody about it? It's like, That's not, I don't think that's what we agreed to. Is that what we didn't? Oh, it's this one? Right, get it in writing. Check-ins periodically. Don't wait till the end. Hey, did you get that done? Nobody showed up for the webinar, seminar? Oh, right? Make sure there's check-ins along the way and give feedback along the way. That's the real time for learning is along the way. And then the hardest part, number 10. Didn't get it done. The hardest part is the consequences, right? You've got to enforce the consequences. Nobody wants to do that, right? Especially if it's really tough consequences. Nobody wants to do that. And give out the rewards. You've got to live up. That people will do, especially if it's in writing. So with goals, you've got to measure. Remember, we talked, they need to be really specific, and there are different types of measurements. 3 different types of measurements. So the system measurement, right? So this might be weight or distance or money, right? The units are within the systems of measurement. So if it's weight, it might be pounds. Distance, it could be miles or meters. Money, it could be income. And then the frequency. There's 2 types of frequency. First type of frequency is, how often are you going to measure this? Are you going to measure it daily? Are you going to measure it weekly, monthly, quarterly, annually, maybe financial statements? How often are you going to measure it? Or, if it's a habit, how often are you going to do it? I'm going to run every day. How often are you going to do it? So 2 different types of frequency. Now with measurement, you want to be specific for measurement. There's 2 types of measurements. We're talking about specificity. One is a qualitative measurement, and one is a quantitative measurement. Let's start with qualitative. This is, I want to run a lot. I just want to run a lot. I want to lose some weight. That's qualitative measurement. I want to be pretty good. Those are just words. I don't like qualitative measurements. You want to be specific. Make them quantitative wherever you can. If you really stretch, my team would challenge me on this, like, hey, one of our goals is teamwork, improve our teamwork. We can't measure that, Rich. Yeah, you can. Or you can be specific on how you're going to do it. We can do surveys on a 1 to 10 scale. We can measure it. We can measure on a quantitative basis. That's measurement. And you can't manage, love this quote, you can't manage anything that you don't measure. Want to lose weight? You got to manage it. Run the marathon, you got to measure it. Perseverance. What happens when you're about to get to the end? You're about to taste success. You're almost there, and then boom, something happens. Just there. You went to hire somebody, they accepted the offer, and then boom, before they started, boom. They said they're not going to join the firm. Right? What happens when you're about to get there? These things come and knock you back. Only people with grit and perseverance will keep going. A lot of people give up right before they're successful. They give up right before they're inches from the finish line. They give up. There's a great story in the book Think and Grow Rich where somebody sold a gold mine. This guy had been working on this gold mine for 10 years. Some people know the story. For 10 years, working on this gold mine. And then he's like, not successful. Sold all the equipment to this guy. Next day, what happens? The guy, ding, 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 gold! Right, just struck gold. Right? That guy didn't need to persevere. The other guy persevered. Don't give up. Perseverance. So this is grit. When people are looking to hire people, they look for a grit mindset. Right? Grit is perseverance, going through. There's obstacles. You just keep going till you are successful. Wait, hold on. I like this quote. Success is the ability to go from one failure to another, my favorite part, with no loss of enthusiasm. Right? I wrote a book called Christitude, which is a mindset about that. Boom, this bad thing happened. Where's the opportunity? Where's the opportunity? Is that something good? Where's the opportunity? Don't worry about the bad stuff. Right? Where's the opportunity? Or forgive the bad stuff, accept the bad stuff. Right? Where's the opportunity? Look for the opportunity here. That's perseverance and success. That's what we're about, right? Success. So a lot of people talk about, and again, this is the journey also, right? This is the journey and the destination. So a lot of people talk about success and they think, oh, you know what? Even if we failed, there's still learning. We can still learn from this, right? I hate that. Even though it's true, I know it is true, but I hate that. I think it puts you in a bad mindset. Oh, okay, we failed. Let's learn from this. Great. Now, I'm a winner. I want to win. I do not want to fail. I love the Pat Riley quote. I remember he told his team this after they lost the championship. Second year, right? Lost the championship. And he's like, fellas, there's winning. He was giving a speech. He thought they were going to console them. Like they lost the chance. They worked so hard. He thought they were going to console them. He's like, fellas, there's winning and then there's misery. Have a great summer. And he probably added something before the word summer. Began with an F. Right? Have a great summer. There's misery. Be miserable all summer. Then win the championship next year. Right? There's winning and there's misery. Now, it is true. You should learn. Now, you can also learn from success. Just remember the journey. You didn't succeed all along the way. Not everything was, win every game. You want to get better and better and better and better. So there's a post-mortem. You can even have a post-mortem when you're successful. So that's the 10-step success formula. Now, I just want to talk a little bit about procrastination. I do a whole seminar on procrastination. It's a fascinating topic. People really struggle with procrastination. And the reason why, it's really, the reason why people procrastinate is simply because of that immediate gratification versus long-term fulfillment. They're going to go for the immediate gratification until they're thinking missing the deadline. They get stressed out, and then boom, then they start. Right? They start, and then they forget about immediate gratification. The stress is too much. The pain is too much. They start. But there's this insidious form of procrastination that I like to talk about. So there's two types. There's with deadlines. How often with deadlines for taxes? People get their taxes done on time? Or you're just like, I'm going to hold on. I'll send it in on the 18th to 20th. No, you get it done on the 15th somehow. You might procrastinate, face a lot of stress, or you might get the term paper in, but most people hand their papers in on time. Right? So what's the worst that can happen with procrastinating things with deadlines? You get a little stressed. Right? But what happens if there's something without a deadline? And there's lots of things without deadlines. What happens if there's no deadline? Yeah, you may never do it. Right? That, my friends, is why I love my coaches. I let them know, I really want to do this. I'm having trouble getting it done. They will not let me not get it done. Okay? They will hold me accountable. In business, for those of you hedge fund folks, you can think about this as an SEC exam. Right? Now, for SEC, you prepare. You do mock audits for SEC. You prepare for an SEC exam. You're supposed to, but there's no deadline to do the mock. You don't know when. These are surprise examinations. You don't know when they come in. I was like, I'll do the mock audit next week. You know what? We'll do it next week. All of a sudden, knock, knock, knock. Who is it? Mr. SEC. They're here. We didn't do the mock audit. We're screwed. We didn't do it. Right? Those are the types of things that happen. Or you wanted to work out. You want to get a health coach. You want a nutrition. You want to start working out. You want to lose that. You want to get in good shape, right? And then go to the doctor, right? And the doctor's like, ooh, got some bad news for you. Cancer or something bad happened, right? And that's a pain of regret. There's no deadline to it, or was there? Yeah, there was. You just didn't know when it would be.
So if you haven't logged in already, hopefully all of you have, this is the screen that you would see where you're going to log in with your email or create an account. In the welcome screen, you'll see an option of 4 apps. We're going to be using the Goal Manager app, which is the first icon, so just click that. And you'll be prompted to choose a journey. At the top, you can toggle here between personal, professional, business. You can use that to just filter through and see what options are available to you, and then click on the journey that you want. Everybody has credits to start a journey. Anytime you start a journey, it takes 1 credit. If you're going to continue or edit a journey, like you can see in the middle, it doesn't cost a credit. So that's how that system works. So just a little bit about what you're seeing on the screen in front of you. On the left-hand side, for the journey you chose, you'll see a list of areas. And when you click on that area, it'll give you just a description, a definition of what that means so you know what it entails. At the top, you'll see a set of 10 steps. Those are the 10 steps we're going to be going through. If at any time throughout the process you want to start and return to a previous step rather than navigating by the back button, you can click the corresponding number and be brought there. And then on the right-hand side, just for future reference, because we do have a lot of other apps that can be useful, especially the Habit Coach app. Goals are habits too. So you can click that window and you'll be able to toggle through the other apps
I was just telling them that I've heard
for
you
now we're going to stay
talk
on
for
the
so
Goal
many
Manager
years, but you're always...
I'm going to go through a series of things. The first part is going to be how to use the app. Then I'm going to give you some skills, tips of how to effectively get the most out of that step of the process. And then you'll have time to work on it, like Rich said. So this is a pretty simple way to navigate the app. What you're going to do is you're going to click the drop-down menu on the area. You'll have a selection of 10 to choose from. You can move to the next column, which is category, and there'll be 10 categories associated with that area. Now, if you don't see an area or a category that suits you, you're able to enter in your own. This only works on the category level. You just click into the text box and you can type anything that you want. You'll also see if you want to add more rows, that's the button at the top. And then the 3 dots here, when you click on it, will allow you to make it private. That means if you were working with a coach, they wouldn't be able to see that specific area category combination. And then you'll be able to delete a row if you've made a mistake or you've entered something that's no longer relevant. So areas and categories seems pretty straightforward, and it is for the most part, but it is a critical step because this is where the magic happens. This is where you're about to, the inception of the goal, so to speak. So you're going to ask yourself questions like, what area of my life is causing the most stress right now? That's usually a pretty good indicator of where you should focus. You can ask yourself, if I were to improve a skill, what would that be that would improve my life, my career, my business? And that's also going to give you some indication of where to focus. You can look at your insight sheet that you filled out during the first part of the lecture to get some things there. You kind of want to see that leverage point about what small improvements you can make that will lead to the huge gains or big improvement you're looking for. And here's where it kind of gets interesting. We have a natural tendency to choose things that we're already good at. And why do we do that? Because it's comfortable. It's comfortable. We feel good, our egos are boosted, we're confident, we're making progress really quickly. But here's the thing. Real progress, real growth, it doesn't happen in that comfort zone. So I really encourage you to ask yourself as you're choosing these area category combinations, saying, is this an easy choice or is this really going to make a significant impact? Because we don't get to new places by doing the same things. So just challenge yourself to see if you're really working on an area that needs improvement, what's going to have the most impact. And it's usually the biggest impact is not the easiest route. So keep that in mind. I'll keep the instructions here. You're going to have about 3 minutes to do this step. And hopefully somebody from the Arootah team can be my timer. Okay, Amy, thank you so much. So we'll put three minutes for you to do this. It shouldn't take very long. And yeah, be creative, challenge yourself. This is your work period, so make the most out of the time. So now you've got a list of areas and categories. You're focusing on some skills that you want to work on. Now this is the important part. We can't do everything at once. We're going to have to prioritize the list. So it's not a matter of what's important. We know everything that you've chosen is important. What we're deciding now is what's most important. What has the highest impact on our overall mission, what's going to have the highest impact on other goals, looking at keystone habits or goals that might have a ripple or domino effect on other areas. And so these are the things to consider. And to prioritize the list, it's very simple. We're going to do a this or that exercise, looking at only 2 at a time. And so you're going to compare the first item on your list to the second. So communication against compliance, then communication against data science, communication against idea generation. And if idea generation was a higher priority that I felt, I would click the side button here and drag it all the way up to the top. And it would become the new highest priority. And then I would continue the process. New number 1 priority against the 5th, the 6th, all the way down the list. Once you've made it down the list and it remains as the top priority, it's safe to say that that is your number 1. And you're going to click the little lockbox on the side, which is just to remind yourself that you don't need to be comparing that to another item on the list anymore. And then you'll start again with item number 2 down the list, following the same process. You want to make sure that you at least get the top 3 in the right order. That's where we're really going to focus. You're going to have an opportunity at another stage to be able to tweak here and there your priorities, but for now, make sure that the top 3 are at least in the right spot. We're going to give you about 3 minutes to do this as well. The instructions are here on the side. And again, making sure that you're really focusing on things that might feel a little difficult. Don't choose the things that are easy. Make sure that you're challenging yourself, and go ahead. You have 3 minutes for this step. So hopefully you've got your top 3 at least in the right priority order. And so now we're on measurement. You're going to see on the side now where it used to have the area descriptions is now something that'll look familiar. This little icon is a chance for you to prioritize. So as you move through the measurements and maybe get a little bit more specific with your goals and see that maybe one of them should have been priority 1 that you didn't consider, or it's not as high of a priority as you thought, you'll be able to just adjust that here in this window. You also have another option to make it private, so your coach wouldn't be able to see it. And so like Rich said, there's 2 types of measurement. You've got qualitative and quantitative. And as he said, quantitative is the preferred measurement. Why? Because it is data-driven. It is finite. You're working with numbers. There's not a lot of room for opinion. And so you're going to get really quality and factual information about what you're measuring. Qualitative, on the other hand, is a little bit more opinion-based. So the way that you make a qualitative scale more quantitative is you define a rubric. So you know that even if you're measuring teamwork or you're measuring charisma, that you know exactly what a 5 means, exactly what a 10 means, and that there's no really room for interpretation there. You may think, oh, quantitative is always the better measurement, and it could be true. But if you think of a goal like growing a plant, and your goal with growing that plant was having the tallest plant, then yes, quantitative makes sense. You're going to be measuring the height probably daily because quantitative measurements are typically measured more frequently than qualitative. But if your goal was to have the healthiest plant, you're going to be thinking more of how green are the leaves? What is the health of the plant? You're thinking more of the qualities there, where the qualitative scale makes more sense. So the idea here is to choose a measurement that accurately represents the goal that you have in mind. And I know you haven't written the goal yet, but you had something in mind when you chose this area category combination. And the reason why measurement happens now is because to write a proper goal statement, you need to be specific, which means measurable, which means you really want to be thinking about that now so that when you're writing the goal statement, you have all the information that you need. Questions you can ask are, what is the smallest actionable thing I could do that would have an impact on this idea or goal that I have in mind? How would I describe success of this to a friend? Those are some questions you can ask to kind of get creative about how you might measure. You're going to be thinking about the system of measurement, which could be weight. The unit of measurement could be pounds, it could be ounces, it could be kilograms, and then the frequency is how often you're going to measure. So you want to make sure you're measuring frequently enough that you're getting the right amount of data, but not too frequently enough that you're kind of overcrowding the information coming in and it's not really giving you enough time to see progress. It's okay to change measurement once, maybe twice. You select a measurement now, you realize you're not getting the information that is leading you to understand if you're moving towards your goal or not, fine, you can change it along the way, but you want to be consistent because the more inconsistent you are with the measurement, the more inaccurate the information comes in, and then you're no longer really getting a good indication of where you lie in terms of achieving your goal. So this is a simple way to fill this out. All you're going to do is click into the text box, you're going to write the measurement, / and then write the frequency in which you're deciding to measure. And that's basically it. Don't overthink it. Stay simple. Just get a simple measurement down to start. A lot of people usually need help in this stage because some goals are not easily measured or obviously measured, but there's always really creative ways to think of it. Somebody in the last seminar had mentioned, I measure my really good ideas by how many questions the person I present them to asks after, because it shows engagement and interest. And so if I present an idea and I get a question back, I'm going to measure that as that I've done something good, that I thought outside of the box, or I presented a really creative idea. So there's no right or wrong way here. You're really just trying to see what information is going to at least show me if I'm on the right track or not. It's like that little blue dot on the GPS map that's saying, am I actually on the road that I think I am on? So that's what you're going to try to do here. So these are, again, just some instructions that you can follow, remembering what quantitative and qualitative is and just the different information that might be helpful. We're going to give you 8 minutes for this. It might take some focus, and again, don't be shy. Raise your hand if you need any help, but this is your time to work. Okay, so we're going to move to the goal statement. This is where you're actually going to write your specific goal down. You have a pretty good idea of what that's going to be, and it's important that it is following the SMART goal principle. You want it to be specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound, like we talked about before. So the story that Richard mentioned is that I work with a coach. I met with my coach a couple days ago to go over the goals that I had set for 2024, and he completely ripped them apart. I had thought, I was supposed to be teaching this, I'm supposed to be some sort of an expert, and there was still places where I wasn't as specific as I could be. And how did he know that? Because he had to ask a question to clarify something. And so if you're writing a goal down and somebody who reads it has to ask you a question about it, it's not specific enough. So, I want to make more money. Well, how much more money? Is $1 enough? If I gave you an extra $1, would you be happy with that? Likely not. So how much money do you want to be making? Now, don't write just 3 months, and in 2 months' time, what's the actual date that you're going to have it done by? Because 2 months is just whatever. You're in the dream state, you're in the wish state. But when you're saying, okay, no, I'm going to make $1 million more by March 31st, 2024, now that's a deadline that you're setting, and it's in the goal. And so anybody who reads that knows, okay, when I check in on you in April, on April 1st, you're going to have this money that you're talked about because you've written it down, and I know that you're going to work towards it. So it's very important that you're specific, which does mean measurable. And you've already got the measurement in place. So what you're really going to do is take that measurement and kind of put your target. I'm aiming, so if you know you're measuring something in weight because you're trying to lose weight, it's how much weight are you going to lose? What's that target weight? By which date are you going to do that? And how is it relevant towards your overall mission? So this will also be another opportunity to see, are you sure that the goals are in the right priority order? Because if your overall mission was to be a great public speaker, going to that gym, if you're already going to the gym 4 days a week and you want to go to the gym an extra day, 5 days a week, is that extra day at the gym going to make you a better public speaker? Likely not. So you want to make sure that the goal that you've actually set, the number one goal on your list right now, that's the number one priority, how relevant is it to the overall mission? And making sure that it's challenging enough, because if it's too easy, you're really not going to get that sense of fulfillment, you're really not going to be stepping outside of your comfort zone, and you're really probably not going to be changing all that much because you're going to be doing something that you're already good at. So making sure it's challenging, making sure it's relevant, and of course time-bound, which is that stamp of saying when you're going to do it by. And these goals are not set in stone. You can have a goal that you're aiming to achieve 3 months from now. You can have one that you're aiming to reach at the end of the year. This is a working document, and as you're achieving things, as you're moving across your progress, you may actually realize that what you thought you wanted in there initially is not really as specific as what you want later on. So don't feel like what you write down is just the be-all, end-all. This is a starting point, but you still wanted to make it sure that it's as specific as possible. And if I came around and read any of your goal statements, I shouldn't have to ask any questions about it. So you want to be specific, like we said. All you're going to do is click into the text box and write, so it's very simple to navigate. So here's just another reminder of what a SMART goal looks like. Make sure that you're really following all of these criteria, and you really want to make sure that you're setting yourself up for success. So any room for being vague just means that you're really not committed to doing it at all. So be proud of what you want. Don't be shy. Reach for something that might feel a little bit impossible now, but show yourself that you're capable of anything that you want, and follow these SMART rules of writing a great goal. Okay, so now we have a specific goal statement. It's time to move on to purpose. So before this, the goal statement could have been anybody's. It could have been anybody's goal statement. The purpose is where it becomes your goal statement, because we're really going to get into why it's important to you and why you need to be working on this. As Rich told us before, it's kind of about that rewards and consequences that we want to look at. And that involves talking to the future self. You're talking to your future self. You're going to ask yourself, what rewards would I feel if I were to achieve this? What's the pleasure I would feel? And it's not just about thinking. It's really inviting that emotion in. What does it feel like in your body? How are you really feeling about accomplishing this in a year from now? And on the consequence side, it's the same, really inviting that emotion into you. What would happen if I did not achieve this? If I had to tell people that I didn't do what I said I was going to do? Maybe that's the way it affects other people. Like, I didn't quit smoking and now my great-grandchildren don't get to meet me. Whatever that is. The thing is that every goal, every action we take, it's fueled by emotion. That's the truth. It's this invisible force that either propels you forward or it holds you back. And so getting in touch with the emotion, connecting it to this goal in a very intimate way, changes something from a to-do list to be connected to identity. Who do you want to be? Who are you? What's that role you're going to be playing? And when something's connected to identity, it becomes far easier to do the right thing. If you're somebody who says, I don't want to eat junk food because I shouldn't eat sugar, it's not the right thing to do, that's what people tell me, you're pretty likely going to relapse multiple times because it seems like something that's outside of who you are. If you say, I'm a healthy person, I identify as somebody who's healthy, I make healthy choices, now when sugar's in front of you, it no longer becomes a temptation because it doesn't align with the person that you are and the person that you want to be. And so the purpose statement is really going to help you become connected to whatever goal statement that you've written. And if you don't spend enough time at this stage, it really is just going to remain a wish. It has to become personal. And the only way it can become personal is if you embody the true emotion of what it feels like to accomplish it or what it feels like to not accomplish it, so that you can repeat that whenever you feel like you need that extra boost of motivation to stay on track. Okay, so you're going to be writing the rewards and the consequences for each of the goals that you mentioned. So there's 2 different text boxes there. It's pretty straightforward. You're just going to type something in. Don't rush through this. Make sure you really do that visioning exercise, like closing your eyes and feeling this. I did this with my coach a couple days ago and was surprised about how much I could actually feel myself and the emotions that I would have felt had I achieved it. Like, I felt like I'd achieved it already in such a real and powerful way that it actually makes all of the steps that I need to do to get there feel effortless. I've already gotten there. These are just the semantics of following a path. And so it's really, though it may seem kind of silly to close your eyes and really put yourself into that position, it is effective. It's extremely effective. And so I just encourage you to take this portion serious. I think it's one of the most, if not the most important part of this process, because it really is going to be the motivation that keeps you on track. And now it's time to actually make a plan to achieve that goal, which is the actions that are required to get closer. So you'll see on the screen a lot going on. And it would be probably intuitive to go through each of the steps all at once. What we're trying to do is do them kind of one at a time. So doing all of the action items and then moving to the next step. So there's a button here at the bottom, 1 of 2. You're going to be doing all of the step 6, then clicking here to the next goal, all of the step 6, and so on. So that's what we're going to be doing. This is a brainstorming exercise. It's really quantity over quality at first. You really want to get as many ideas as you can down that you think is going to contribute to being able to achieve a goal. If that's going to the gym, getting a membership, buying running shoes, setting an alarm clock, those are some things that could be actions. That's on a simplified level. But you're going to be writing as many as you can think of in the area. And then to add an action item is just the button at the bottom here, and it'll add a line. You'll see the first 2 are actually highlighted in yellow. That's because every goal needs at least 2 actions. The reason is when you get your master plan at the end, it's going to list the top 2 actions required to get that goal towards achievement. So keep that in mind. And you'll also be able to choose whether it's a decision, a habit, or an action itself. And that'll come into play a little bit later when we're working with deadlines. And it'll also be helpful to know when you're wanting to utilize a lot of the other Arootah apps like our Decision Manager or Habit Coach to keep track of those things. So I'll give you time to start working and entering in these actions. There's a few other things that you'll notice. When you click the 3 buttons on the side, you'll be able to toggle to complete an action. Once you complete an action, it will disappear unless Show Completed Actions is selected, which is at the top. And there's also a completed goals and actions item that'll show you a history of all of the actions you've done. And the reason why this is helpful is because you're going to get a little bit of a prime progress to show how close or far away you might be getting from your goals. And it also is satisfying. It's like a to-do list. You get to cross things off of a list. It's very satisfying, at least for me. So that's a little bit about what could happen as you're moving along. And so remember, entering in all of your actions and then to the next goal. We're going to kind of start at priority 1. We're going to fast forward in a little of a different manner and maybe get through the top 2 priority goals. So really what you're going to do, if you have more than 2 action items listed, you're going to make sure that the top 2 priorities are the ones that are highlighted in yellow. So you'll do that for as many goals as you can. That's part of the process you're going to have some time for. After that, we're going to work on our start line and deadline. You can do that together. You want to keep in mind that you can't start everything at the same time, and you can't finish everything at the same time. That's going to create a lot of overwhelm and a lot of stress that's unnecessary. So look to see what actions need to be done before other ones can be finished. That's a good idea of when to start and when to finish something. You're also going to see what's going to have the highest impact. Usually the 80-20 rule, you know what I mean? Making sure that there is an action on your list that's going to have a significant higher impact on the overall achievement of the goal than some others. So you can keep that in mind when you're putting your start line and deadlines in. And we'll work with those 3 steps for now, and we'll finish with the accountability at the end. To toggle again through your action or through your goals, just use the arrow at the bottom. One thing I can say is don't just put in a date. If you just click in something on this app, like, okay, March 20th, I'm gonna do that, but you don't actually put it into a real calendar, it's really meaningless. So think about the dates that you're putting in. Even if you're only working on your top priority goal today, put in some serious deadlines. You're gonna be putting a deadline in for the goal level and the action levels. Put something that's challenging enough that you're not going to procrastinate to the very last minute. You actually wanna make progress on something. And so I just encourage you to take this seriously rather than going through the motions. Make this real, put it in your actual calendar, make a start line, put a reminder in, set an alarm, whatever you need to do. If you think of your goals like, buying a new house, buying your dream home, buying that race car or whatever it is that you have always dreamed of, and you didn't insure it, that would be such a stupid thing to do. So the accountability strategy is really the insurance to that prized possession, which is these goals that you're setting out to do. So don't just mindlessly put something down. Put something that you're actually that's going to motivate you to stay on track. If you're putting a person down as an accountability strategy, they have to be somebody that you respect, somebody that you don't want to let down, somebody that you'd feel really embarrassed to tell them that you didn't follow through on something that you said you were going to do. That's how Rich talks a lot about the public declaration or public humiliation, because that can be a really good motivator to really, do what you're going to say what you're going to do what you're going to say. So you'll have a few options to choose from here. You've got the public declaration, coaches are options there, peers, sometimes technology. You can put accountability strategies to technology. Think of a strategy both on the goal level and on the action level that is going to make sure that you actually do what you're going to say. Accountability is essentially your key to execution. So without a good strategy, you're not going to execute on what you said you're going to do. And if you're not going to have time to do it for all of the action levels, make sure that you do it for the goal level at least, especially for your top 1 or 2 goals. So now you've got your accountability strategy, at least for your top 1 or 2 goals, which is your insurance or security system to make sure that you actually execute and follow through. Once you go through all of the goals, you have to go through all of the goals, putting in, you'll be able to see the master plan button here. Once you click that master plan, you're going to be given, this is a zoomed in feature of what you're going to see. This is an overview of everything you've promised you're going to do. It's going to list your goal, the reason why this goal is important to you, why you must actually follow through and do it. This is the identity and the person that you're going to be when you do it. The actions, the top 2 actions needed to accomplish this goal, how you're going to measure it, when you're going to do it by, when you're going to start, and your accountability strategy. And so this is a really good thing to print out and have on your fridge, somewhere where you're actually going to see it, because if it's out of sight, it's out of mind. And if it's out of mind, it doesn't get done. And the good news is that you have this. You have this plan that everybody out there doesn't have. You have this plan. The bad news is most of you are not going to do anything about it. You're just going to leave it somewhere, forget about it. And that's a real shame, because this is supposed to be what you're dreaming for. These are the things that you aspired for, and there's a part of you that really wants to fulfill. And if you don't put in the work, if you don't put in an accountability strategy, if you don't schedule it in and make it real, it's very unlikely that you're actually going to do any of these things. And so with that in mind, just see what would I be able to do to support myself in this. And I know that we talk about coaching a lot. As a coach, of course, I'm biased, but my coach definitely holds me accountable because they have my best interest in mind. As a coach, I know that. When I'm working with a client, their success is so fulfilling to me. And if I couldn't get them there, I would feel bad about myself. And so I have a coach that's even tougher than I am on me. And it allows me to not have this out of mind, because I know every week I'm checking in and he's going to ask me about it, and he's going to find something about it that I didn't do good enough, and it's going to push me to be better. And the more that I push myself to be better, the more that I get done on this list, where it's not just the top 2 things, where I'm actually completing everything on the list that I've dreamed of, and I'm creating more lists as the years go on, or as the year goes on. So this is what you're going to have now. of course. I don't know, Rich, if you wanted to say anything. It looks like maybe he does.
You guys are the ones that want to get it done, right? Anybody who's here wants to get it done. This is the hard part, right? This is the hard part. The execution now. You got even this far. Now you got to take it to the next level. You can do it on your own. You can rely on that internal force, the willpower, or you can seek out a coach. It doesn't even have to be with us. It can be with any coaching company or any coach. I happen to think that our process is great. So thank you, everybody, for coming. Thank you, Christina, for an amazing job. And onward and upward. And most importantly, happy birthday to myself. Happy birthday to me. A few hours. Now stop. Thank you, everybody. There's plenty of food here for those of you who stuck around. Celebrate. Done an amazing job. Now go out and get those goals done.